Super Sentai is no stranger to the idea of two teams fighting each other, but those are mostly saved for movies and specials where the two most recent teams either team up or fight. But what if there were two original Sentai teams destined to fight each other throughout a whole year of television? That's where the 42nd Super Sentai series comes in, Lupinranger vs. Patranger. Instead of a team based on Phantom Thieves or another police team, we have the motifs being used for two 3-member Sentai teams who are not only fighting the villainous Ganglers, but each other. The Lupinrangers are thieves contracted to steal the Lupin collection from the Ganglers in order to get their wish granted to get vengeance on the man who froze their loved ones. Meanwhile, the Patrangers are police officers of the law who want to destroy the Ganglers and capture the sneaky Lupinrangers to uphold the status quo of the world. The Lupins use the freedom of the skies with planes and jets, while the Patrangers stick to the ground to use the basic and strict functions of automobiles. The Lupin suits have these beautiful freeform cloth capes, while the Pat suits are more armored up. And that's just how the visuals showcase the duality of these teams and characters. The actual writing of the character dynamics, both within the teams and against each other, are quite strong. We'll start with the Lupinrangers. Kairi, aka Lupin Red, is a seemingly casual guy who's actually burdened by his past mistakes, to the point of not even caring about his own well-being in a lot of fights, just caring to get the mission done so his brother and the rest can be saved because he sees more value in their lives than his. I found it to be a compelling twist on the cool, competent red archetype Sentai likes to use on occasion, and the other two Lupins are enjoyable as well, with the cool blunt Toma, aka Lupin Blue, and the cheerfully peppy Umika, aka Lupin Yellow, rounding out the effortlessly cool Phantom Thief dynamic quite well. As for the Patrangers, it's led by Kirichiro, aka Patron 1. Kirichiro initially plays the typical angry cop with a one-track mind who wants to uphold justice by any means necessary without considering the nuances and motivations of what drives the Lupins to do what they do. Though Kirichiro does eventually cool down throughout the series, as he's forced to work with the Lupins on various occasions. Sakya, aka Patron 2, is the rookie cop among the Patrangers, while Tsukasa, aka Patron 3, serves to keep both the hot-headed Kirichiro and the inexperienced Sakya in check. Sakya does have his moments to shine, especially with his fluctuating dynamic of Kirichiro as his boss, but his crush on Umika can get quite grating at times, especially in the second half of the show, and I wish Tsukasa had a bit more to her than Team Mom and her love for plush animals, despite both of those traits being quite enjoyable to see. So what we have here is the classic thief versus cop dynamic, and one the show is carried by even in its weaker string of episodes, especially as the cops and thieves interact outside of battle, with the cops not knowing exactly who the thieves are throughout most of the series. I've seen some have argued there was missed potential for a more complicated overarching plot in this season with the versus gimmick, but I find Super Sentai will always be episodic at its core, even in the more experimental and serialized shows that have come before or since this series, so may as well lean into that with moment-to-moment character bits and wacky Monster of the Week scenarios. Sadly, I do have a major critique of the overall show, not just individual episodes that can drag, and it's with its Six Ranger. I find Noel as a character to be quite unremarkable, but as a toy line function, he's fine enough. He's meant to be the bridge between the two teams, but his presence as a character is just dull to me, outside of some cool backflips and a kernel of interesting backstory. Again, I get his purpose, the X representing the crossover of the two teams, and I quite like how his Lupin design is more armored, while his pattern design is more cloth to visually show the blending of these two teams' design language, but the man under the mask didn't do much for me. Despite those complaints and some really rough one-off episodes here and there, I still like a lot about Lupinranger vs. Patranger. Some people may complain that the Pats get shafted in screen time and character development while the Lupins get most of the interesting stuff, but I fundamentally disagree with that take. The Lupins still get interesting character stuff and cool moments because they have the Pats to bounce off of, and Kirichiro alone has a lot of great moments to look into. I think you can make an individual show with each of the two teams work, but you lose a lot of what makes these character dynamics special when they're separated. Lupat won't be for everyone, hell, Noel stuff drags it down for me a lot, but there's still a lot of merit to this long-lasting duel between thief and cop.